Okay, cool. Just in case.
Professor, um,
Hey,
seeing, seeing that we've been away for some time, can you go over the homework when we are ready to start? Can you
yeah, I
just
can
go
do that.
through it? Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right. The session is being recorded. So that way, I guess the other ones, anybody else who's not able to attend can watch the video. I'm also migrating it to the business OneDrive. I'm not sure why I'm having so many issues with it, so it should be fine. I already cut a support ticket, but should be migrated hopefully by tomorrow for the videos and stuff. Cause I know there's only 2 videos on there, but I want to put all of them and just have them all on there, and I'm gonna label them that way. So day 1, day 2, day 3, instead of having some random names and characters on there.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. All right, so let's go over the homework real quick. Let me just pull up my terminal. Let me do that. Share screen. Okay. All right. So if everyone does want to pull up the homework for day 4, it's on the OneDrive or the OneNote. We'll go over the one, which was adding a user, I think, right? So let's do that. So this is the first one. I know I'm kind of repeating it, but just so you don't have to look on the left or the right side. So this is the first objective. So use user add to create a new user account named jdoe with the home directory of home jdoe and a default shell of bin bash. Assign the user to the group users. Okay, so there's a couple of things. So the first thing by default, it will put on /home, but I will show you the actual flag that if you want to change the actual home directory of jdoe. So like when you add the user, it automatically makes a user under home/home. And then the default shell for this system, or most of the time, is going to be bin bash. So, but there's a flag for that also if you want to be more specific. And then assign the user to the group users. The group user isn't created, so this just signifies that the group's already created. So let's pick the group first. So we're going to use the group add command, and then we're going to add users. Okay, I guess I already have that implemented. So for the user add for jdoe, what we can do is look at the options real quick, so I can show you guys it real quick. So when we go down here, you see the D. So you'll use /D to specify the home directory, like /home, but that's the default already. So we really don't have to do anything for that. And then if you want to change the shell, for instance, you go to -S, which I'll go down and get there. So for the -S, that's the shell. So like, bash, there's Z shell, corn shell, and some other shells that you use. So that's what that means. So if I wanted to add the user JDoe, I could be more specific, and the /d I can be like /home, right? Because this is where we want his home directory to be at, right? So you just put the information. I think this is the syntax. We'll try it and see if I'm successful, unless like it makes a subdirectory in JDoe. But I usually don't use this flag because usually it does it by default. And then we'll do /s. I can do a Z shell for now. But before I do that, let's see if I have that shell available on the system. But this is the way you do it. So what you can do is use the cat command, and then under etc shells, it'll tell you the shells that you have on your system. So these are the ones that are compatible. So we have Z shell, Z, SH, tmux. Actually, I won't even look at tmux. I haven't heard of that shell. Bash, and then we have the ZSH. So we'll use that one instead. So we'll do user add, and then it was -d /home JDoe, but it does it by default, but we're doing it just to see how the command interacts. And then we'll do /bin/z shell, and then we want it to John Doe. Then once we do that, what we can do is ls on /home, and we can see that we have JDoe. And then let's go into the JDoe, go again. As we can see, it created it here. So the -d tells it where you want it to be, and it says /home. Under /home, we have JDoe, and that's the actual user that we have. And then we can check his shell, what shell he uses. So what we can do is do ls/etc password, and this is where it shows you the users and all that. And then what we can do is grep for JDoe. Let's double check really quick, see if I did it correct. Actually, I'm okay, not ls. I have to cat it because it's a file, not ls it because it's not a directory. And then we do JDoe. As you can see here, this is his shell, bin/zh. Can everybody hear me? I just want to verify because I haven't heard anything.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So as you see here, when you look in the etc password, it's a file. I was doing ls like I'm listing a directory, but it's a file. So when we grep for JDoe, we can see here that his default shell has been bin/zh, and then his home folder is home JDoe. But like I said, technically for this example, you could have just done this and it would have worked perfectly. All right, we only have 5 more to go. Actually, a couple more to go. So the next one is user delete, to delete the user account. So what we can do, I'll show you guys something good that you should do, and I'm going to tell you why you should do this. So let's first do it the way you normally do it. So if I do delete Joe Doe, right? It'll delete it. But let's say if I ever wanted to add him back, for example, as you can see here, it says warning: the home directory JDoe already exists. So you're not deleting everything. Like the mailbox exists and some other stuff. So the proper way to delete it is you want to use these flags, and I'm going to go over it with you. So what you want to do is the first flag you want to use is R. Where's R? So if you see the R, so let me see. Just want to make sure. Nope, it's not that one. I'm tripping. Why am I putting user add? Should be user delete. So we'll go to -R. So remove. So remove the files in the user's home directory. So when you like delete the user, you don't delete the home directory. So use -R to remove the home directory, and it will be removed along with the home directory itself and the user's mail spool. So like if they get mail and stuff on the Linux system. And then you also want to use Z, remove any SE Linux user mappings for the user login. We'll go over that later in the course, talking about security stuff. But usually the way you want to delete it would be this way. So you want to do the -Z and then R flag. And if you do this, so nothing is defined. Okay, nice. But now if I add the user, let's say like normal, you won't get that error. You see, it comes out clean. And that's the way you delete it. The proper way is you can use the R flag and take the Z out if you want, but that's the way you want to do it because you want to make sure it's deleted for sure, all the contents and all that. And that's number 2. The number 3 is group add to create a new group called finance. So this is pretty simple. So you know group add, and then we're gonna do finance. So once we do that, you see that it comes out clear. Usually in Linux, if you don't hear, if it comes out like this, usually successful. Other way to check if the command was successful, you can do echo $, question mark, and you see that zero implies that the command came out good. Right. So if I did like some like weird flag that doesn't exist, like these flags don't exist, let's say, right? I'm sure all these letters don't exist. I'm sure some of them probably do. But if I did that, you can see that you get this invalid option. And then that's why when you do that echo, when you do, actually, I'm not going to do clear because then it's going to mess it up. So let me do echo. And then if you do the $, question mark, as you can see, you get two. So that's like an error. So when you see zero prior, you know that the command came out good, but just thought it was a good tip to share. But like I said, usually it will be clear that the command executed correctly. And the way you can check is do groups. You can do groups. Actually, that's my groups. So I can do groups finance. Actually, no, I can't do that. There's another one we can do. I think it's under groups. So let's see. So we can do etc, and then we can do groups. Yep. And then we can see here that finance exists, which is all the way in the bottom. So we can see that it executed correctly. All right. And then the next thing is to delete it. So we do group delete finance. And if we do that, we can do the same thing again. We can check that group is deleted, doesn't exist. You can also grep it if you want. So we can grep fin, nothing shows up. It'll match the first three characters, but nothing showed up because it's deleted. And then for number 5, change age to set the password expiration policy for user JDO to expire in 60 days. So you complete this homework on. Let me delete that part. Okay, so what we can do is go to man and then do change age so we get the correct options for this one. So this one's asking to set the password expiration policy for 60 days. So we can do let's expire, remove account expiration date. It's like for the password date, I think is the expire date. I think that should be the one. So it should be the /e for the expiration date. When we account expiration date, set the number of days. Nope, this is incorrect. So set inactive, the number of days, no, that's inactive. Then we have minimum days. Then set the maximum days during the password is valid. So we can do max days because that will be invalid after the max days. So you can use the M. So the expiration policy for user JDO. So let's do that. Let me go man, double check which flag it was again. All right, so I have to create him again. So I'm not sure. Okay, so I see that I did forget to add on here, like after we deleted him to add him back up again, because step 2 says to delete it. So I should have added on there to add him back. So let me just add in the instructions, which is my fault. All right, let's add him again. Okay, so now that we did that, we should check the change options. I think it's -L. I could be wrong, but let's see. Okay, there it is. So as you can see, the maximum number of days. So 70 will be, so 60 password expires. No, this is incorrect. Give me 1 second. I think it should be the max days. Why is it showing that way? Maybe I didn't count the days. Let me look at it again. Sorry, I'm looking at a different screen. So let's try that again. So 60 days. Yeah, this would be correct. Yeah, this would be 60 days. Yep. Okay. My apologies, guys. So dash M is correct. So maximum number of days between password change. So I put 60. And if we add 60 days from today, today is the 17th. So 60 days would be June 16, 2023. So that's the way you do that one. All right. And then the next one will be I think that's it. Yeah, because on the bottom I think I put in the commands for you guys to follow. So that's pretty much it. Any questions for the homework?
No, thank you for going over it.
Yep, no problem. Yeah, I was confused myself. I saw June 16. I expected to see 60 there too for some reason, but yeah, that's my fault. All right, so today we're gonna go over SSH. I have some like servers that I'm gonna spin up for you guys, like EC2 servers, for you guys to like practice SSH. And these servers will be open for like probably like maybe a couple hours. That way you guys can practice them. You guys can't mess them up because I'll delete them. They're just templates that I made. But we'll go over the PowerPoint really quick. That way we can go over some of the. I want to go over it first and then kind of show it to you. That way we get the PowerPoint over with, and then show you guys some of the things that we covered in the PowerPoint.
Okay.
Okay, it is about SSH, so we'll go over that. And let me share my screen. All right, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
I'm sure you guys know what SSH is, but there is some good information that we can cover for SSH in general. So what is SSH? SSH stands for Secure Shell, which is a network protocol used to securely access and control remote computers. It provides a way to establish a secure and encrypted connection between two computers, allowing users to remotely log in to another computer over the internet and execute commands as if they were physically sitting in front of it. SSH is commonly used by system administrators, developers, and anyone else who needs to securely access remote systems. So when we're talking about remote system, we're just talking about a computer that's not in front of you, that's somewhere else. So there's some SSH versions and the benefits. We'll talk about it a little bit. SSH comes in different versions. So with SSH version 2 being the most widely used version due to its stronger security features compared to SSH version 1. The latest version of SSH version 2 includes support for stronger encryption algorithms and key exchange methods. So when we're talking about encryption algorithm, it's just like they're talking about like I don't want to. If you guys know what encryption algorithm is, if anyone doesn't, I can explain it further. I was trying to find a further way to simplify it. It's just the way they encrypt your data. That's it. It just better ways to encrypt it. And then the key exchange methods is like the way that the your keys are exchanged, and we'll go over that in a bit. To establish an SSH connection, both the client, so pretty much the person who's trying to connect to the server. So like example, like let's say me, that I'm sitting here, I'll be the client and the server will be some server like somewhere in the world that I'm trying to connect to. Components must be installed. So usually they're installed by default, but if they're not, I can show you guys that also. The SSH client is used to initiate the connection to the SSH server, while the SSH server is responsible for accepting incoming connections and managing the user authentication process. So I'm going to go over that a little bit. So when they're talking about SSH client, we're talking about like us, the person who's connecting to. So on your Linux machine, you have two types of services running. You have an SSH client, which is basically for you to connect to other systems and the configurations around that. And then you have an SSH server, which is a server that's running and it's listening all the time for other users to connect to you. So there's two things. One SSH is for you to connect to another machine. And then you have another SSH service running, which is a SSH server that is just actively listening for connections and stuff. And it has like its own like configurations of what's allowed to connect to the system and some other parameters. And we'll go over that too. The use for SSH for remote access offers several benefits, including improved security through encrypted communication, the ability to access systems from anywhere with an internet connection, and the ability to automate remote tasks through scripting or command line tools. A good one is Ansible. I'm not sure if you guys heard of that. It uses SSH to remotely send commands and stuff. And the reason why we're talking about SSH is because there's some protocols in the past, like Telnet, that they used. And the reason why Telnet wasn't good is because it's plain text, meaning that when you send your password and your information, you can actually view the data that's being sent. So that's why there's a need for SSH to encrypt your data. We'll talk about we're going to talk about it, like I said, and then I'm going to show you all the things that we went through. I think it'll be a bit more easier. So what do you guys think? Do you think it'll be easier to go through the PowerPoint or go through each PowerPoint and then show you along the way? I think that might be an easier way. I don't think you guys are going to remember the whole PowerPoint. I wouldn't either. So let me just do that instead, actually. We'll go over the slide and then I'll show you an example.
Okay.
All right. So when we're generating keys, so the reason why this is important is because let's say you just put yourself in this situation. If you're trying to connect to another server, but you have the password, you have the information, you want to set up this SSH key exchange, you got to create your own key. So to generate the SSH key on the client machine, which means it's you, using the command SSH keygen, which stands for key generation, this will create a public key and a private key. So remember, the private key you keep for yourself, and then the public key you give it to the remote server. All right, and let me share my screen now. One second. Can you guys see this?
Yes.
Okay. So if I'm creating a SSH key, right? Which you guys are going to do because I'm going to have the server set up for you guys, but we'll go along with it too. So just giving you a pre-show, that way you guys can kind of see how it works. So when you're making a key, so the first thing we have to know is that if we do ls-a, A gives you the hidden files. So we want to look in the .ssh folder. So what we can do is change it to there. Spelled that wrong, SSH. So this is where all the keys and stuff are saved. So known host and old host. So when I do a key gen, right, you use the SSH keygen. There's also other algorithms that we can use, but for instance, just for the sake of this, yep, go ahead.
The -A is for what? It gives you what?
Oh, it gives you all the hidden files.
Okay.
Yep. So like, do you see the dot? So if I did like ls normally on this directory really quick.
Yeah.
If you do ls, you don't see any of the hidden files. So ls lets you see the hidden files, like bash history, bash logout. These are like hidden files that is obscured from the user for us seeing it. But these are just like configuration files and stuff like that. This was just to show you that there is a .ssh folder and is usually in your home directory as the root user. It's in the root user's home directory per se. And we're going to change to the .ssh folder, which all the users have one. And now we're going to make SSH keygen, which just makes you a key. There's also other flags to tell you what kind of algorithm you want to use. Basically, there's different ways of making your private and public key sets. There's other ones that are stronger, but for this sake, we're going to use a default one, whatever the default is. So it's generating a public and private RSA key pair. It asks you where do you want to save it by default. You see here, it saves it at .ssh.rsa, which is your private key. And then it says for a passphrase, I'm going to put nothing, but remember, you should put a passphrase. And the reason why I say that is because if you don't have a passphrase and someone gets on your computer, they can log into that server you have access without a password. Like they can just go on your computer, use the SSH command, log into the server without any password. So that's why it's important to have your own password, because if someone steals your key, like this actual file, and has it in their server, they can actually log into that server without any password. So it's really important to set it up that way.
So sorry, before you move ahead, after you put in the SSH.keygen command, what did you put after where it said enter file in which to save the key?
I just pressed enter. because it
Oh,
was
you
the
just
default.
enter. Okay. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, because you can actually right there, instead of pressing enter, you can actually put the file location where you want to save it. But
Okay.
in this instance, I didn't put nothing because I'm agreeing with the default.
Okay.
Yep. And then as for the passphrase, I didn't put any password on there. But that you should. It usually gives you like a little random art, like a little picture of your encryption. This is my fingerprint, but I will be deleting this, but this is just for show. So the key fingerprint, it says the SHA 256, whatever it uses. Let's clear that. So as you can see here, the RD RSA, that is your private key, and we can look into it. You should never show your private key, but I will be deleting this so it doesn't, for practice. But this is the private key. As you can see on the bottom, it says private key. And this is just a string of characters and stuff like that. And then on the bottom, open private key. And then your public key is the pub. As you can see on the bottom, it gives you more information about like the user or whatever. But yeah, this is your public key. And then the next thing you do is when you want to after you make your key, you want to copy it to the remote server, and then use a SSH copy ID, and then you put the name of the server that you want to connect to. This is just an example. And then you press enter. And then when you press enter, it'll ask you for the password for that server. If the server is allowing you to connect with a password, then you'll be able to. And then yeah, go ahead.
Yes, please, I'm truly lost. I think if you could just slow it down a little bit, because everything is like a bit confusing to me today.
No
You
worries.
lost me from a CD.ssh.
Okay.
That
Okay.
that part, because when I put mine in, it said there was no such file.
Yeah, so there probably isn't a file because you probably don't have anything I guess configured in that file. But you said under yours, yeah, you probably shouldn't have anything on there. Did you do slash ls-a?
Yes, I did the ls dash a, and then it had this anaconda
Oh yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
bash
that's fine.
history, bash logout, bash profile, and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, that just means you don't have any like basically nothing was created. Like you've never used that service, so you probably don't have a folder. So let me go back to it and so I can try to elaborate further. So when we do this, all these ones that you see, these are things from programs that I've had, and it will open up a file. Since I used SSH before on this account, that's why this file was made. But by default, anytime you use SSH from whatever account you have, it will make this directory called .ssh. And the reason why you have this directory is where you save all your keys. It's like all your passwords. Like think about this area is where it saves all your passwords.
Okay.
So in this directory, it's not created on your site right now, but if you run this command, it should create it by default. So if you run this command really quick, SSH keygen, and just press enter. If you want to do it, you can go ahead, and then press enter on it, and it will make you a key. And then the same prompts that I went through will ask you where do you want to save it. Just press enter. Any password, just press enter, enter. Don't put nothing. And then if you do ls-a, you should see that you have a .ssh directory now. But yeah, so this example is just to show you guys, we're not going to actually connect to any system, but I would just want to elaborate on this just so, throughout the thing, it makes a little bit more sense. But like I said, everyone has this, like all servers have this, this .ssh directory. But remember this directory, like when I do ls, the known host, it just tells you like known, basically like computers that have like logged into you. And then you have RDRSA, which is the public key. And then ID is your private key. We'll talk about that later also, but all you have to know is that this one is kept on your server and this one goes to the server that you want to connect to. That's all you need to know, is that you put this on the server that you want to connect to. So next time you log in, that password that you used when you made the key is the password you use. So usually when you log into any computer, right, you have to know the password, right? Oh, my name is Bob and my password is 1234. But with the SSH key, the password is linked with the SSH key. So when you put that password in and that key, you put it on that server, when you log in, you have to put that same password to log into it. And I'll explain that a little bit further also.
Okay.
And then the command that I was talking about, this is the command that you use it when you want to send it to the other server, is the SSH copy ID. We won't do it now, but the way you use this, all you have to do is just put the user name and then the IP address of the server that you want to send it to. That's it. When you press enter, it'll ask you for the password for that server, and if you have it, you put the password in, and then once you log into it, it won't log into it, but it will actually do it for you. It will just send the key over there, and then now when you log in, now that when you log in, you're using your SSH keys. So whatever password you put for your SSH key, let's say you didn't put no password, then you can just log in there. You can just log in there without a password. Like literally, you can just like do SSH just like this, and you press enter and you log in without a password. If you don't put no password on your SSH key when you create it, then when you log in here, there's no password required to log in because it's using your SSH key as a form of validation. Like, hey, you have SSH key, we don't need your password because that's what the SSH key has. It has no password link to it, so you log in. If you didn't have an SSH key, then you would have to use the password for that account on that system. And that's only if it allows it, because sometimes the administrator like blocks that and says, hey, you have to use the SSH key in order to connect. But yeah. And then let's go back to the presentation. All right. So we kind of went over this. We can skip this for now. All it's saying is that if you want to make it more secure, the default port is 22. You can change it, but we won't go through this a lot. The managing the keys on here. So I already showed you this. How do you make the SSH key pair using the key gen? Adding the public key to the server. Already. This is a manual way. I showed you the easy way. It uses SSH copy ID. So we skipped that. This isn't important either because we went through all those steps. And then I talked about having two things. You have the SSHD config file. So this file, when you see the D, this is the server one. So this is basically managing anybody that will connect to your server. This is the file that you use. Like you might say like, hey, no one is allowed to log into my server as root. Or yes, if you're a root user, you can log into my server. So this is just controlling. This is like the defensive. Like this is like controlling anybody coming into the actual server. And then you can actually like change some rules. Like, hey, the default port is 22, but you can listen on another port if you want to. And then you have some other options, that if you want to change here. And the password authentication, this is what I was talking about. If you log into a server, like if you make a user on a server and his name is Bob and his password is 1234. So when you actually go on the actual server yourself, and when you type it in like 1234 on that server, it works. All it's saying is that when you use the SSH command, you can use the same password to log in. But if you disable that, then you cannot log in at all with a regular password. You will have to actually have an SSH key to connect. And if that key has a password, then you use that. If it doesn't, then you don't use a password, you just log in. This one, the SSH configuration file, the SSH config, the way it looks, this is like basically for like a file that you set up so you can log into the other server. So this file just has to do for you logging into the other server. So when you log into the other server, the identity file, as you see here, I don't know why they have all these random names, but identity file just means your public key. So pretty much when you log into the server, there's a directory where it looks in, it should be in a .ssh, but you can specify the location of where your private, your public key is. Sorry about that. Where the key is located, so you can log into it. The private key, my bad, not public key, private key. So when you're logging in there, the identity file or this is just a location where your key is located. So when you log into the server, it uses that. There's some other parameters we don't have to go over, but I just added in here just for verbose sake. And then the SSH sessions, there's once you're logged into a server with SSH, you can use a Control D. This will close the SSH connection. You can also type in exit, like the word exit. It will actually exit you out of it. You can suspend it. If you use the Control Z, it'll suspend it temporarily. So that way you can go back to it if you want to, and you can send it to the background. Also, meaning that you can do other stuff. So let's say like you're in an SSH session and you have to like double check something on your server, like the way it was spelled or something you have to do, you can use a Z command to suspend it, put it in the background, and then do what you got to do. And then you can use this FG command to bring back the session. And then it says here, resuming a disconnected SS session, you can use this command too. But the main command that's important for this lesson is the exit command and the control D command, because this will shut down the SSH session. If you don't, you're going to have to exit out the window, which is kind of annoying. And then other than the SSH, this is something separate, which we'll go over in a little bit. So I'll pause it here because this is something else as to do with sudo user. And this is the SSH stuff that we just went over. I'm going to show you an example. Let me just share my screen so I can share my screen really quick so we can go over this real quick. Okay, so right now, can you guys see my screen? I just changed the screen really quick.
Yeah, I can see a screen share. Well, it switched to another screen, but I still see your screen share.
Okay, all right. So let me just launch up these two servers real quick. I'm going to show you how it works. So I have two templates really quick, and these are what I'm going to use for you guys too. So I'm going to use the same thing for you guys, and so you guys can try it out. Just going to launch these real quick. These are just servers. You know how you guys have your virtual machines? I'm just launching them on Amazon, so that way, you know, I can show you an example. Come on. Okay, so it'll probably take about like a minute, 60 seconds for these to spin up. There's not that much stuff in it. I'm wait for this to spin up. So in the meantime, this is what we're going to go over. Like I said, is the SH, how to connect to another server, and pretty much some of the things you can do. We'll go over the configuration file and stuff. Wait for these two to load. But once this is done, I'll actually spin up some machines for everybody. And then I'll give like the IPs, like two IPs with usernames for everybody. So everyone will have a username and IP. That way, you know, you can practice on your own without setting up your VMs and then having to do back and forth. Everything will be set up for you guys. So I'm just double checking right now just to make sure that everything is set up correctly. Just want to make sure everything looks good. Gotta remember who's the username. So we got Peter and Lucy. I'm just putting down the usernames for everyone. So when we log in, everyone will have two servers, and these will be the user accounts on here. So root, password will be root for both, and then okay, so we'll go down here. Sally and John. Okay. Cool. All right, I think you should be ready now. I'll log into them real quick. All right, we'll try this one. This will be the public IP. And let me just share my screen now. Let's do that. All right, so we're back here. So right now I'm going to log into that server I was talking about. So the way you use the SSH command will be SSH. And I think the user for this one is Lucy. I could be wrong, but that's why I wrote down the name so we can make sure that we're connecting to the right one. So, all right, so this is the IP. We'll try this one. Oh, it's working. So this IP address is for the servers that have the users Lucy and Peter. So you say yes, you want to trust the fingerprint. So this fingerprint, since what this says is that do you trust the server? And when you do, it will be put inside the known host file. And I'll show you that real quick. And then I put the password root, and then you can see that we logged in. Now inside of Amazon Linux 2023. And then if I exit out of here, I want to show you guys if I do ls, actually ls-.ssh, known host. As you can see here, now there's this file known host. I can look inside of here. As you can see here on the top, hold on, this is on the bottom. So one of these files up here, I think it's this one. It's one of these IPs, which will be basically known, will be like a known host. So when I connect to it, I won't get any warnings. So this is the signature. All it says, this known host, it means that we know this host, that we're comfortable with it, we trust it. So it saves the information here, like the key here, or the public key. So now that we logged in here, do SSH Lucy. I put the password root. As you can see, I'm in here. But right now I want to make a SSH key so I can log in, because right now I'm logging in with the password. That's the reason why it's working. It's because I'm using its password to be logging in. Can you guys still see it? Because I just moved my screen and I don't see any green facing it.
Yeah.
You see the command prompt?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to show you guys how this one works.
So should we be practicing or no?
Oh no, I'm showing you now because I'm going to give you guys labs, and you guys will have like a couple of hours. And then if you guys need the labs again, just text me. I can spin up the labs for you guys and the instructions for you guys. And the reason I'm doing this is so I can show you guys how to do it, because this lab's gonna have a couple parts into it. And the reason why is so instead of you setting up like 2 servers and doing all that work, I just want to make it simple for you guys. Not too much stuff in there. And the reason why I can log into the server is because, hold on, sorry. Where is it? Okay. So if I go to cat etc sh. Okay, so this is the file. So remember I was talking to you guys to SSHD. So on the server Lucy that I'm connecting to, right? You see on the bottom, it says password authentication, yes. That means that I can log in with the password of the local account. So the password that I use would be the same password I will use if I log in physically. If I'm actually in front of the computer, that's the same password I'll use. I'll use the password root. And it says password authentication, yes. So remember the SSHD configuration file that I looked into, which is here, SSHD config. This basically handles all the connections coming to the server. So I connected to the Lucy server, and everything that connects to this server has to abide by the configuration of here. And then it says here that, yes, you are allowed to log in with your password. That's all that means. If that said no, we wouldn't be able to log in. Any questions about the SSHD file? Okay. And just a reiteration, the SSHD file is, there's always two of them. There's a regular SSH file, which is the client, which all the things to do with you connecting to another computer. And then the SSHD is a file for everything, for everything related to people connecting to your computer. All right. So as we can see here, I was able to log in as Lucy. Now we're going to make the SSH keys and all that cool stuff that you guys would like to see. So I'm going to change, actually I already have my keys set up. As you saw, I already did the keygen command, the SSH keygen command. As you guys saw, I already did that. And then I made my key in the .ssh folder. As you can see, my RD RSA is my private key, and my ID RSA.pub is my public key. Now I'm going to send my key, and I'm going to send it to Lucy server. But before we do, let's look in her directory to see what she has. So we're going to do we're going to CD into her directory. As you can see, it doesn't exist because there's nothing has been created because SSH hasn't been used. Nothing has been used related to SSH. So as we see, there's nothing there, right? So now we're going to exit. And since you guys see me create the key, we see the key is created. So the next thing we want to do is use the SSH copy ID command. We're going to do that, Lucy. ID. So all this is saying is that you're copying your key over to Lucy server. So once we press enter, as you can see now, it says attempting to copy it out. And then we just type in root, which is the password that we used before to log into the server. And once we do this, it says number of keys added is 1. Now I can log in without a password. And I'm going to show you guys this. So now that I copied my key, and remember when I made that key, I didn't put no password on it. So there's no password on the key. All that means is that I can just log in without a password. Now, if I press enter with SSH in front of it, as you can see, I logged in without a password. There's no password on my key. So when I run that command, SSH at Lucy at this IP address, as you can see, I logged in without a password because when I created my key, I didn't put a password on there. And now, since I'm in Lucy's directory, I can do ls -a. As we can see now, we have a .sh directory. And if we go in there, when we do ls, we can see we have authorized keys, which is my authorized key from my server. And if I cat it out, we can see here, this key right here is my public key. So my public key now is on their server. And if I copy that, let me delete
Before
it.
you go, you did cd.ssh. Did you go into the SSH directory?
Yes.
Okay.
So right here, I did CD, and then I went to the SSH, and then I ls, and then this is the text file.
Okay.
Yep, this is the text file. So I catted the text file, and it shows that my key is on their server. So when I log into Lucy's server, it basically checks my private key, so the private and the public key matches. It's like just imagine a broken heart, right? The heart is broken. I know it's not a good example, but and if you match it together, it completes the heart. So the public key is one half of the key. So the public key, anyone can see your public key because they can't decrypt it, right? Because all the public key does is encrypts the data. It just encrypts it, right? The private key decrypts it, but that's the important one. And that key, the private key, is on your server. So all you're doing is you're sending a public key to the actual server, right? So what happens is that when you try to log in, it can verify you because when it sends data back, only you with your private key can open it. So that's how it knows that there's more to it. Obviously, a little bit more to it, because also the server has to send their public key too, and they have a private key. So you kind of exchange keys. That's how it works. But I can kind of show you guys that in a little bit, with like pictures and diagrams. But the main thing that we have to know is that public key, all it does is encrypts the data that gets saved on the remote server, and authorized key, that what's inside of here, this is the authorized key that is allowed. So when you log in, it pretty much knows that, hey, you're the correct person, because only your private key can decrypt the data. But since you didn't put a password for your key, that means that you can log in without a password. Like you can just log in and no password allowed. So that's the downside of that. Someone gets on your server, they can just log in to that other server without a password. So that's why you want to put a password on your keys. But for ease of use, most people don't put passwords on there, so you can just log in there easily. And if I exit, remember, you can do the exit command or the Control D. I'm going to use the Control D. You saw Control D, exit it. And if I do exit, I exit also. So that's two ways of doing it. So now that I'm back to my regular account, let's go to the .sh so I can show you guys my public key. So the public key that they're using, the ID rsa.pub. And if I cat that out, it's the same key that was on the server. As you can see, it starts with 4 A's. And then as you can see here at the end, it's 4QC. It's random. I know we're not going to remember the whole string, and I'm not copying and pasting it. So, but to show you guys the same thing, we can do the cat.ssh on authorized key. As you can see, it's the same thing. 4QC, triple A's. I'm sure this is probably very common, but like I said, this is the same exact key. So your public key is now on that private server. I mean, not private server, but on that server. And the reason why I gave you 2 labs is so you can like actually practice at making a key from your machine to this server, and then from this server to another server. So you get like 2 virtual machines that you guys can play around with. All right, and that's pretty much it for the SSH key. So we learned SSH key gen. This one makes you a brand new key. This makes you a brand new key, private and public key. And then you use SSH copy ID, and this copies your key. There's other ways of doing it, which is tedious. I'd rather do it this way. This is the easiest way. SSH keygen to make your key, SSH copy ID to copy your key. And then remember, there's 2 files. We're going to look in here. We're going to look in the SSH file. So you have 2 of them. You have your regular SSH config, right? And then you have the SHD config. So you have 2 of them. And like I said, like this one, if we go into the config file, this is how you configure your stuff. Come on. I'm catting it. That's why. So let's do VI. Actually, let's do less. So this is the configuration file. This is for the client. So what that means is that when you're connecting to another server, this is the file that is important when you're connecting to another file. And as you see here, where I highlight it, this is where you're going to put your public key in. So I can actually comment. This is commented it out. But if you delete this, you can actually put the path of the real key that you're using. So yeah, so this is where it looks if you wanted to do that. Like if you want to specify the key, if you don't, if it's the wrong key, then it won't work. You would actually have to do this. You would have to do SH -I, and then you'll have to give it to the location of your actual key. So it'll be like .sh, and then it will be ID rsa.pub or something, and then you put in Lucy at 1.1.1. So this is how you do it manually, but that's if like you don't have your key on that server. You can do it this way too, but that's one way of doing it. But like I said, the easy way is sending your key to the other server and having it there. All right, and that's those are the files that you have to look at. Remember, so it'll be SSH client and then the SSHD. Those two files are pretty much in charge of the SSH service.
Does it
So-
matter what type of SSH key you create? Because I know there is the RSA and there is another one, I think is E something, E20.
You're
Hello?
talking about you're talking about this one. Hold on, let me see. So
The type of encrypted key, right? So I see this one only have the RSA one, but does it matter? Like
yeah,
what are the differences between
it
those?
does. Okay, so yeah, it does make a little bit of a difference. Those two just a little bit. So one's more secure than another one. So example, let's say if you're using an RSA key versus ED, let me look at the options on here real quick because there's more options. So we'll do SSH keygen. So if we look down here, we don't have to go through all that stuff. It's a lot more stuff to look at. So we'll look at the type of encryption. I think I forgot what flag it is. I'm not sure if it's a T. I think it's a T. I could be wrong. Let's see. So there's a constant. Okay, so T. So here it is. So these are the keys that this is what you're talking about, right? The ED25519 and stuff like that.
Right.
Right. So RSA keys, they use larger key sizes. That's all. So like typically 2048 or 4096 bits. All that means is that like the bigger the bits, the more secure your thing is. And then with ED RSA, it's a smaller key sizes. So usually like 256 and 512. So basically it means that these ED RSA keys or the ED DSA keys, they can be generated and authenticated faster, and they use less memory and network bandwidth compared to RSA keys. So pretty much, yes, it's a smaller key, so it's a lot easier to use. But RSA is more widely supported and is more compatible. So most people use RSA or ED just depending on the company standard or whatever they use. But yeah, so a lot of some companies have like strict standards to use RSA keys for like compliance and security reasons. But you can use either one, RSA or ED 25119. So like I said, the difference is that this has smaller key sizes and this has bigger encryption, and this uses a little bit more bandwidth and more memory for it to function. This uses less. That's the only difference, but you can use either one.
Gotcha. Okay. But in the future, let's say in our environment, if we are tasked to do something like that, the ticket will specify what type of SSH key to create, correct?
Well, if you don't do it, there's a default. I think it's RSA, it's a default one. So it just depends.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, it just depends. So like I said, I'm sure there's default versions of it. So yeah, it just depends what you're looking at. If you're looking for security, you're looking for ease of use, there are cost and benefit ratios, but I'm sure if like there's a list of them, but you pretty much pick whatever the company standard is. Some companies are more stricter. They want bigger keys or bigger stuff, but you can specify it. I'm sure there's a default. It tells you here. It should tell you here. Where's the default? It doesn't tell you the default, but the one that I made just now, it looked like it defaulted to RSA. So, but yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you.
No problem. And then we're gonna go back to this real quick. So basically we just talked about our SSH. SSH is done. Now we're gonna talk about the sudoers file. So as you guys are familiar, we use sudo, right? Like sudo to escalate privileges. But remember, the only way you can do that is if your user is in the sudoers file. So that's why remember when we created Tom and you guys couldn't escalate privileges, it's because Tom is not in the sudoers file. So there's a group called wheel by default. If you add Tom into that wheel group, he can do sudoer things also, because the Tom group is actually part of the sudoers file, which I'll show you guys. But the sudoers files is very important. So the sudo is a command in Unix-based systems. The reason why they say Unix-based is because, as you know,
sorry, Prof. I know you had this on the PowerPoint, but we're not seeing the PowerPoint right now. I'm not sure if you're reading off of it.
My bad. I am. Okay, that's my bad. Thank you. Where is it? All right. Can you guys see it now?
Yeah.
It's not showing anything. Hold on, give me 1 second. One moment. Give me one moment. Sorry about that, you guys. Just trying to load this page real quick. Just taking forever. Okay, finally it came back up. So let me share it again. Okay, it's already shared, I think. Let's see. All right, can you guys see it now? Or no?
No.
Can you guys see it now?
No.
No.
Let me just stop this.
I'm seeing it.
Okay, nice. Okay, so this is the so we're going to talk about the sudoers file. So sudo is a command and Unix based system. So all that means is that when we talked in the beginning about Linux and stuff, so Unix was by Bell Labs, and like Mac and Apple is a deviation off of Unix. There's other systems are like Minix and some other stuff, but like Linux, when it says Unix, it basically that was the mother of anything with Linux, Minix, anything with the next word in it. So sudo is a command and Unix-based system that allows users to execute commands with elevated privileges, typically as a root user. So the sudoers file is a configuration file that specifies which users or groups are allowed to use the sudo command and what commands they're allowed to run. So it's pretty much just managing who has these privileges. The main configuration file for sudo is etc sudoers, but you can also use the sudoers-d. So when you see .d in Linux systems, .d just stands for directory. So to add additional configuration files, the files in sudoers.d should have a file name with no extension. So you can skip this part. This is if you're doing custom stuff. It's really not important because most of the time you're not going to be doing that. I mean, if you do, you do. But just to make it less complicated, I just like to add extra things just so later on you want to look in the video and you learn more about it. You can explore different options. But I do have extra things on here just meant for future, reference. And then this is the syntax rules. So the syntax just means like the structure of how it should be typed out. So it's very strict and should be checked for errors. There is a command I can try to find. I forgot which one it was, but it's one to check the errors to make sure that the sudo files is correct. So it should be checked for errors before changing anything. The file consists of multiple entries, each consisting of a user, host, and a command that is allowed or denied. For example, the following line allows user Alice to run any command. So remember, you got to be careful. If you delete this file by accident, pretty much that user you're using to access it, it is going to lose all access to pretty much being able to edit it again. So you got to be careful with it because and not to mess any of the configuration up on there. And I'll show you an example also. What are the benefits of a sudoers file? So the benefits of a sudoers files, it's for privilege delegation. So users using sudoers delegate privileges has several benefits. So pretty much what it says is that like if you have developers and you have other team members, they have different use cases. So they might be able to use sudo on certain commands, like maybe commands that are preventing or I guess in relation to developer commands. Maybe the system admin maybe has more sudo commands. Depending on how the organization is managed, the sudoers file can definitely help out giving permissions to certain things. That's what it means. So you have improved security. So by allowing users to execute only specific commands with elevated privileges, you can reduce the risk of accidental or intentional damage to the system. So audit trail. So sudo logs all sudo commands executed by users, providing a useful audit trail for system administrators. So you don't want people to have like 100% access. That's why you have sudo file, because then people can damage it or do anything to it, and they can mess up the system too by just copy and pasting commands. They don't know how it works, so it's really important. And then you have centralized control. So what that means is that you have one location to control everything. So the sudo file can be managed centrally, making it easier to enforce consistent security policies across multiple systems. Flexibility. The sudo file allows the granular control over. Granular means like just more specific, like more specific options or specific things you can do over which users are allowed to run, which commands, providing greater flexibility in managing access to the system. So like I said, granular control means you have a lot more options, and you can pick certain options to enable. And then we'll talk about sudo's logging and audit trail management. So sudo's by default has a logging and audit trail feature that enables system administrators to track and monitor sudo usage. By default, sudo logs all commands executed through it, as well as their arguments to the system. When it says arguments, is like the commands, like the parameters that it asks for. So like, let's say if I ran a command ls -a, for example, right? And let's say that command needed sudo or whatever the case was, but it will actually log the flags and the stuff that you put in there, like the arguments and stuff. So like ls-/dev or something, for example, it will record the whole thing to the system log file. So it saves here var log syslog on most Linux distribution. But you also have to set it up. But here are some ways to manage sudo's logging and audit trail. The sudo's file contains options for controlling logging behavior, such as whether to log all commands, whether to include the arguments in the log. So all this is saying is that it gives you more control. Like, hey, do you just want to record the commands that the users use, or do you want to log the commands that they use plus the arguments that they're giving the commands? So, example, do you just want to log ls when they run ls-l, or do you want the l included? So that's all that's saying, is how specific you want to be. This is the default, how it looks in the syslog. This is what you're logging. So the log is var log /sudo log, but this is in the log server, and it's saying default because this is how it's this is the option that it's giving. Log file equals var log sudo.log. So that's how it looks like when you're configuring it. This is the location of where the log's going to be saved. And then you can analyze logs, so you can integrate it with other systems. This isn't we haven't went over this, but there's some systems that analyzes your logs. So what that means is that it will look in this location, grab the data, and it will basically like lay it out in a way that's easily read by someone like me or anybody else. So that's what the analyzing logs. It's talking about these systems called Splunk, SEIM, Elk, and QRadar. They're just systems in order to organize data. So this is just talking about how the log can be analyzed and stuff. And then there's security considerations for SSH and suitors. Like I said, with SSH, someone can take your key. And if your server has been hacked, SSH is not secure, because if someone hacks your server, it doesn't matter if you use SSH, because they're on your server. They have access to your keys. They can literally like just decrypt. They can able to see your traffic. It's not as safe. So both SSH and suitors are critical components of Unix-based systems that provide privileged access to sensitive resources. As such, they need to be configured and managed with security in mind. Some security considerations include restricting access. So like limiting SSH and suitors access to only authorized users or groups is a fundamental security measure that should be implemented. So you don't want anyone just to be able to like control the SSH files or your suitors file, because if that's so, they can do so much damage. They can actually add extra things in there that you might not want in there. Strong authentication is important. So making sure that you have a strong authentication method. So your public key. So make sure you have a long password for your key. Like make sure that you have a passphrase. That's what they call them. So it doesn't matter if you have a complicated password that's 5 characters. Like if you use like exclamation marks, it doesn't make a difference, because like nowadays those will be cracked a lot easier. The longer your password, the harder to crack. It doesn't matter if you even have special characters. I can put like today I took my dog for a walk, I ate some ice cream and sat by the beach. Like just that password alone, it's extremely hard to decode versus a complicated password that's only 5-6 characters. So the longer your password is, the better it is. So it talks about multi-factor authentication. So pretty much maybe having like a one-time password sent to your phone, if it's set up that way, let's say. So multi-factor authentication is just having more than one authentication method in order to access a system. And then encryption. So SSH should be configured to use a strong encryption method algorithm such as AES or 3DES to protect the data in transit. These are other algorithms that you can use. Regular updates. So regularly updating the SSH and sudo files, suitors to the latest versions can help address security vulnerability and improve overall system security. So for the SSH and suitors command, you want to make sure that you update them to the latest version because sudo is a command and then SSH is a command. So you got to make sure that all the files and stuff that that are in the realm of those are updated. That way you keep it good. We're talking about hardening SSH and suitors. So some of the best practices for hardening SSH and suitors configuration file include disabling root login via SSH. So when you log into the SSH, let's say you're administrator and you have root access, for instance, on a server, you want to disable that because you don't want someone to log in if they get the password as root because they can literally damage your system. You rather have the system administrator log in with a regular user and then escalate privileges. So this can reduce the risk of unauthorized access to the root account. So disable password authentication. That's what I was talking about earlier. Configure SSH to only allow public key authentication. Can significantly reduce the risk of brute force attacks. So example, if you can log into the server, right, with a regular password, the brute force attack, all that means is that I can have a little like program that runs through every single password in the dictionary. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, ABC2. Like that's what that means. Because when you're logging in with a regular password, it will just brute force the server until you find the real password. That's why it says here to disable the password authentication on the server. Any questions at all?
No.
Okay. So do you get the disabling password authentication and the difference and disabling the root login?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And just to verify, the root login just means that you can't log in through SSH using the root account, and disabling the password authentication means that you're disabling the password that's the local password to the computer. So if that's your local password when you log in physically in front of the computer, you won't be able to do that. That's one of the things you should disable. But in my labs, I enabled it to make it easier for us to log in because sending you guys keys and all that would just be a lot of extra work, but it's a lot easier doing it this way. And then enforcing strong password policies. So basically, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, don't mean to cut you. So
No problem.
disabling the local password, if I understand it correctly,
Yes.
is basically the password. Let's say if my password is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. By disabling the local password, now I will be forced to use the SSH key, correct?
Yes, correct.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then enforcing strong password policies. So if the password authentication is still necessary, let's say like if that's something that's a necessity that you're not using a key, then implementing a strong password policy can help protect against password cracking attacks. So making sure you have a long password. So like even if they try to crack it, it will take them forever to do it. So that's what that means, to make sure you have a strong password there. And then limiting suitors access. So suitors, when we're talking about suitors, is basically like people who have like privileges and stuff like that. So implementing least privilege principle. So what that means is that like if you start an organization, you have no privileges. And then slowly we give you privileges on things that you need access to, like absolutely need access to. So limiting suitors access to only authorized user and groups can help reduce the risk of unauthorized access. Because example, when it says unauthorized access, that means that let's say, I started as a developer, but let's say I have access to be able to change people's password. That's unauthorized access because I don't have the authorization to access that stuff, but my configuration or the way I guess the file was made allows me to do so. So technically I shouldn't be authorized to do that. And then also having access to the sudoers file, it's not also a good thing also, because then if somebody hacked your account, it can also mean that if someone's hacked your account, then someone with unauthorized access on your account can do things also. So it can mean several things. It just depends on how you look at that sentence. And then managing SSH and sudoers access policies. So properly managing access to policies. I'm sorry for this presentation, but I need to go over all this because it's really important. I know it's like kind of mundane. PowerPoints are just so boring, but I definitely understand. But I just need to go over this. But we're almost done, so we can go to the lab part of it. So properly managing access to policies for SSH and sudoers is critical for maintaining system security. So some of the best practices is regularly reviewing access policies. So reviewing the SSH and sudoers access policies regularly can help ensure that access is only granted to authorized users or groups. You always want to view it because if somebody got fired or something happened, this is why it's always good to review your policies, update them, and see if there's anybody that maybe changed positions. That, like, example, if somebody changed a position, they shouldn't have the same access. Their access should change, maybe up or down, depending on what is going down, or give them access to this and then take access from there, things like that. So I'm implementing role-based access control. All that means is that, like, whatever the role is, if they're a developer or a manager, they have different access for different things. So implementing role-based access controls can help enforce the principle of least privilege, ensuring that users only have access to the resources they need to perform their job duties. So this is just basically saying, hey, if I'm a developer, I should have access to this. If I'm a manager, I should have access to payroll stuff. A developer shouldn't have access to payroll because they don't manage that. The manager will be looking at that kind of stuff. And then same thing, enforcing strong passwords. And the last one, I think is this one, is SSH and sudoers logs. So same thing, logging and auditing SSH and sudoers access can provide you with valuable information for detecting and preventing security breaches. So why this is important? Let's say if someone is trying to log in multiple times, it'll be in the logs. You'll be able to see it. Also, you'll be able to see what kind of commands were trying to be ran. So I don't know if you ever try to run a command and then it says this will be reported to your root account or to the administrator. So that's what this file is for. So when people run commands they're not allowed to, or they don't have the proper permissions to do so, it will log the command and that user and the timestamp and send it to that log. So basically you review it, you see, hey, why is this guy trying to get access to this? Or maybe, hey, he's trying to get access to us and I see that he does have permission, but he doesn't have the proper, he does have access to it, but he doesn't have the permissions enabled on the system. Like that's what that means. Like regularly reviewing your logs. So reviewing your logs regularly can help you detect anomalous behavior or security breaches. All that means is just weird behavior, like basically like things that are not common. And then configuring centralized logging. So what that means is that you want to configure one server or one area where your logs are stored. And then you also have to think about like making sure that the data is backed up or like copied to other servers. So what that means is just that you have one server that's in charge of the logging or one area, so it's easy to manage. You don't want like 20 log servers for 20 different computers. It would just be very, it wouldn't be the smartest way to mobilize time and just resources. So that's what that means, centralized logging. And the last one is SCIM system. So pretty much integrating. So what that means is that there's a SCI, this is more like cybersecurity. So there's a system where you can send all the logs to. That way that system can see everything. So that's all that means, sending all your logs to one centralized system so you can manage and see that. And now, let me go back. Let me stop the share really quick. One moment. All right, let me just go back. I'm going to share my screen really quick to you guys so I can draw some things out, make it more simple. All right, can you guys see the sketch pad?
Yes.
I just want to draw a couple things
Yes.
out. Let's make it easier. I guess I should use a paintbrush. I'm not sure. No, let's use a pen. Okay. Okay. This is not going to be the best drawer, but I want to just draw a couple things so I can try to explain it to you. So earlier when I was talking about the SSH key, right? We're talking about one server that's here, right? And then we have another server that's here. All right. And then when we're talking about the public key, right? So I'm gonna use P U P. Oh, this is really terrible, but public key. So your public key that you have on this server, right? You have to send it over to this server over here. And when you save that key over here on this public or your public key on this actual server, right? Basically, like when you try to connect here, it sees that this public key is authorized. So this is the authorized files. So
Sorry, I have a quick
yeah.
question
Yeah.
because I know you were showing us initially.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna assume whenever the tickets or whatever it is comes through, are they gonna be sending the IP address for that other server that we're sending the public key to, or are we supposed to get that IP address?
In the beginning, when you set everything up, you use the IP. Actually, yeah, use IP either way. Yeah, my bad. Yeah. So when you're connected to the server, yes, you have to use IP address. You would have to use like the user that you want to log into, and then it's IP address every time.
But how do you get that IP address for that user? Is it like sent to you or?
Oh, you mean like in general? Oh, so in
Yeah.
general, so yeah, so in general, you should have the IP address. So let's say if you're just setting up two servers, right? You can just log into the server and just get its IP address, like IPAA or whatever command. So that's the way. Or you can ping the name of the server. So if DNS is enabled, like you know how you ping google.com, like it translates to the IP address. So some systems you can use the host name, but no, you will need the IP address. So you would have to go on the server, get the IP address, or what would happen is a lot of companies, they have DNS. So all the servers will have different name. They might have like log server, one will be called like dev server 1, dev server 2, dev server 3, dev server 4. So if you ping those servers, like I can kind of show you an example. If you ping those servers, it'll give you the IP address. And then that's the IP you use. And then you have to just put the username in front of it. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank
Yeah, I don't want to get too far for this SSH stuff, but just to make it simple, when we're doing the public key, this file is saved in your .sh folder. So in the .sh folder is where your public key is at, and then when you connect to this server, using the SS or the SSH copy ID or whatever, or let's say if you already have established, what you're doing is that this public key is authenticating you. I'm sorry, the public key, your public key is on this server, so it's authorized. So when you connect here, it sends a message back, and then your private key is used to decode it. And then it sends some information back and forth, and that's how I know it's you. That's how it can authorize you and to know it's you. So like I said, the first thing, public key, it's in this server, in this remote server over here. And then when you connect to it, it sends a message back, encrypting the data with your public key, and then only your private key can decrypt that data. So it goes back and forth and it agrees on certain things, and then you're able to log in. So this is how it works. It's actually not a detailed explanation. I didn't do it on purpose because I don't want to get too complicated with this. So I just want to make it simple. Like I said, your public key gets in the beginning, only in the beginning, the public key gets sent to that server. Once the public key is there, it doesn't send nothing. All you do is connect to the server, and it sees that this signature, this key is allowed, and then it actually it encrypts the data, and then uses your private key, and then that's how you connect usually. So I'm going to go back to this thing onto the server so I can show you guys the actual sudoers file. I don't think I went over that. So I'm going to go over that real quick. So we'll go over the sudoers files also. So for the sudoer files, remember when we were Tom, we couldn't do any sudoer privileges. So let me add a random user. I'm going to add Manny. So I'm going to change to Manny. Okay. So as you see here now, if I try to do like a command like root wants to do, let's say if I want to do password for Tom, I want to change password for Tom, it doesn't let me, right? Because I'm not part of the sudoers file. So let me go back to root, change, so SU stands for switch user. I got to put the password for root. So as you see now what I can do is I can add him to the wheel group. And this is in the sudoers file, but I'll show you how it works in a second. So let me do that real quick. I'm going to add him to the to there. So you have to use a user mod command, if you guys remember, with AG to add him to the group. And we're going to add him to the wheel group, and we're going to add Manny. And now if we go to the Manny account, now if I try to do that command, the password command on Tom, like try to change Tom's password. Let me see if I'm part of the wheel group. Okay, I am part of the wheel group, but maybe he doesn't have the permission to do so for that one, but I can enable it for him, which I will show you guys. So what we're going to do, we're going to go to VI, etc, suitors. Oh, this is terrible. Let me change the background color. Give me 1 second. Yeah, because this is definitely not legible at all. So let's change the colors out real quick. So the foreground is going to be, and then, no. One second. The background. Or can you guys see that a little bit better? I mean, this doesn't even look as good. Let me just try to make the settings a little bit better. Why is this color like this?
Yeah, I think it's better than before. I think we can see.
Yeah, I think I have, because I'm using like basically the server that I'm logged into that you guys see, I'm actually like remotely logged into my server. I'm on my regular computer. So that's why the colors might be changed, because the terminal I think has some settings on there too. So there's two things I got to deal with. But let me try one more time. I just want to make sure that this is good for you guys. I don't want, I want to make sure that you guys can see everything as perfect as you can. Let me try one more time. Okay, I'll leave it here for now. So it should be fine. But if we go all the way down here, let me go. When you guys are in this file, when you use Vim, which we'll go over that in another class, you use the /. You just type in /, and then you just type in wheel. You see here wheel. It says here allows people in group wheel to run all commands. /all. Over here you see the wheel group. The percentage sign just means that that's the group. So that signifies group. So when you see the percentage sign here, wheel, so you can make your own group. You can put like admin or whatever group you want. And then over here, you see the percentage side. It just says percentage just stands for group. So the group wheel, it can do all the commands, all. And then same thing allows a password. So when you put no password, that means all the commands can be ran without a password. So you know how sometimes you have to put a password when you want to do like a sudo command. So if you have this enabled, that means that you don't need a password.
Can you go over that one more time, please?
So this one right here. So so pretty much all this means is that when you use the sudo command, you don't put a password in. So this just means that all the commands that's on the system that's accessible, pretty much you don't have to put a password in there in order to use it. So if I did like let's say if I did like let's think of a command. Let's say you try to add a user, right? You wouldn't have to add a password to use that command on there. So that's all that means. All commands, you don't need to put a password in. But let's say if I put no password, let's say if you were like one of the administrators, and I said like, hey, this administrator, I want him to only create user accounts. I can put here the command user add, or whatever command that signifies user add. And you can add that here. That means that when you run the user add command, you don't need a password if you're part of this group. If you're part of this group, you don't have to put password in. So this wheel, that you see here, it just means it's the group. And this group is allowed to run all commands without a password. The example you see here, I put Professor Linux and I put all commands he's allowed to run. And you see this this group, sorry, the percentages group. So you see this group here, this group, Yassine, he's allowed to only run these commands: bin virt manager and bin xhost. So all that means I'm giving them specific permissions. You're only allowed to run these commands. That's it. Over here, when you see all like this, that means all the commands in the system is allowed to be ran. And then over here, root, you see root over here? So root is allowed to run any command. As you can see here, root is the master user on the top, like the top user. He's allowed to run any command. And then me and mine, I'm part of this group, I can run any command too. But this is the default user. The percentage just means it's a group.
Okay. So what's the difference in putting it up there under root and putting under where you have the will?
Here?
Yeah. So I see you have the group Professor Linux.
Oh, no difference. No difference. The reason why you do it this way is because you want to put it under the comments so it's legible. Because if everything's together, it might get confusing. So it's easier. Yeah. So these comments, it's just easier to put it under the comments. So you can, it's for readability purposes. Because you can delete all the comments and just have all these commands. But then the hard part is that when people are reading this, they might get confused because like this gives you more options. Like this is almost like a manual. Like it's like just imagine like a note, like a document, but in that document, it tells you ways how to use it. Like it's a template, but in that template, you can change things around. So think about this as a template, and then you can just change things around. That's pretty much all it is. Like you see here, you see the little comment here? This is an example. You can uncomment this and use this. So this is just made for like usability. Like it's easier to use it this way. So example, let's say same thing without a password. So it says here, are you talking about this section? Is that what you're referring to the whole time?
Right. So I see there are two sections, right?
Yeah,
and
I see.
I
So
see you added the group on top with the
okay.
the user.
Okay, so let me show you. So the reason why I'm using this command is because any user that I add to this group can run all the commands, right? But this one means that they don't have to use a password to log in. So that means if somebody like hacked their account, right? Let's say someone was on their computer and they wanted to run that command, that means that they wouldn't have to put their password in. So this just means that the person who's running this command is that person. So if my name is, let's say my name is Tom and I'm in the wheel group and I run like a user add command, that means that I can run the command, but I have to put my password in. But if I put this one in, what if someone uses your computer and you leave it open and they run the command? They can run it without the password being put in. So the only difference between this two is that this thing just tells you what commands you're allowed to run. This is just saying that I can run all commands. If I put like the user add command, that means I only can run user add command without a password. So all this means over here is how you're running the commands. One saying, hey, you need a password to run all the commands or whatever commands you're specifying. And this just means that you're running the commands with a password.
And one last question about this. So what's the difference in adding a user to the will group and adding the user direct instead of using the percentage sign in front of the group? And let's say adding user Professor Linux,
Okay.
like doing it, adding them directly to the group.
Yeah. So the difference would be that, okay. So if you specify like what commands a user can run, right? You could do that, but it would just be very tedious. You would have to manage like 10, 15 people. But if you use groups, it's easier because like 10 people is part of a group and you can just manage their permissions off that one group. But yes, you could be specific of what users have certain commands. But usually you use groups just to manage many users. So like, let's say you had like 100 developers and then you had like 200 managers and you had 30 finance managers. So you would use groups to manage their permissions instead of just each one managing it individually. But you could individually, for someone with special access, you could do that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. And if you did do that, you wouldn't add the percentage sign on there. You would just add their name.
Right. Okay.
Yep. And then when you look at this these are the commands you can run. So if you see some of this, these are how you can run it. You see here, it says these are some of the things that you can run. So when you run the all command, right, you can run networking commands, software commands, services commands, storage commands. So storage command will be like command df. It tells you the disk free, process commands, drivers, things like that. So when you do all like this, all that means you can run every single command. But you can also, instead of putting all here, or all whatever equals, you can also put like for networking, only networking commands. So you can specify what commands you want them to run. So the defaults don't matter. I want to look at that stuff. So same thing here, processes, you see here. So this is the command aliases. So when you, like example, for here, right, you see the word processes, right? There's command alias. So when somebody types in process, right? So for example, if I go here to Professor Linux, if I put here process, like the word process will go up here. Like it will reference this right here. The word process would reference this. So if I put process where Professor Linux is, all that would say is that Professor Linux is allowed to run the nice command, the kill command, the other kill command, like because there's two versions of it, and then the kill all command. So all that means is that I'm able to run those commands. If I did the storage one, right, I'm allowed to run fdisk, sfdisk, parted, part probe, the mount command, and the umount command. You can also add more commands to here. Like if you have more like storage commands, you can add more commands here. All that means is that when we're like, when we give the user access to the storage alias, which is the name, this is the name, that means that we're allowing all these other commands to run. But when we put all, that means every single command that's allowed is allowed. That's all that means. So let's try to put Manny on one of this. Let's see how it works. So what we can do, let's edit this real quick.
So while you're doing that, so if you put specify the specific I guess group, or how should I say, service management, if you specify a specific one, that means they will not have access to any other commands. Like
No.
let's say if they're trying to, okay,
Yeah.
so just those specific
aliases. So when
aliases that they are fine.
Yeah, you can make your own. So command alias, and then you put the name. You call it whatever you want. Like the command alias, all it's saying is that when you put it in front of here, like let's say if I said like processes or whatever I put in that field, like in the processes area, those are the commands that can run. That's all that means.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So, yep. So we're gonna give him access to the password command. And that's it. I think that's all we're going to give him access to. It's just a password command. Oh, I think I put it as read only, so that's my fault. So let me put out of here. Oh, it finally changed. You see, but it only changed the front of it. So sorry about that. All right. So what we're going to do here, we're going to go to, we have to do vi sudo command in order to use this. So let me do Control I.
And why did you use the vi sudo instead of the vi regular vi?
Oh, because the vi sudo basically it's like acting like sudo, like when you're actually like changing out the command. All right. So now we're gonna do many, and then we're gonna do all, and then equals the password command. Remember, we couldn't use it. So I'm gonna exit out of here. So I think it should be fine. Now let's switch to many. Let's see if this got enabled. So let's run the sudo password command on Tom. What the heck was his password? I definitely just forgot. All right, let me just exit. Actually, I didn't even set a password for him. let me exit to sudo, and let me change the password really quick for Manny. Now I'm going to change the Manny real quick. Now, if I want to change the password for another user, let me double check the correct syntax. I'm not sure if I have to reset it, but give me one moment. Any questions so far? Before we do this?
Clear so far.
Okay. Actually, you know what? Let me check where this password command is. So this command, I don't know if you guys know this. I'm not sure if I showed you, but if you do which, it actually tell you where this command exists. If I do the password command, it tells me where it's located. So it's in /bin password. I just want to make sure that it was correct. So let's go to vi sudo. And also the vi sudo, when you're asking about it. So basically, it's just using the sudo command. That's it. It's just for like usually like files that require sudo access. So like a sudo configuration file. So
Yeah, so I asked because I know you were running already. Oh, you're running as Lucy, right?
earlier, yeah.
Okay. Because if you are running it, you're already logged in as root, then you wouldn't have to do the vi sudo, right?
Yes, you don't need to use it if you don't want to, but usually you just use it to edit the sudo configuration file.
Gotcha. Okay.
And the other reason why it's important to use it is because it performs a syntax check. So pretty much when you use it, it tells you what you did wrong. If you use a regular vi command, it won't tell you if you spelled something wrong. Like if there's like a typo, if there's a typo, when you use vi sudo, it will tell you.
Oh.
And then also when you use vi sudo, when you save it, it takes effect immediately. Like so you don't have to like reload the file, or you don't have to do, the system doesn't have to reread it. Like vi sudo will automatically like check for syntax errors, and will also take effect immediately after you save it.
Great.
Yep. So let me just double check everything looks good. So we have /Manny, which is the group because he's already in that group. Let's try no password. Hold on. Come on. So we'll try this really quick. So this is just saying that no password. Remember, I was telling you guys, if you put this one in, that means that no password needs to be used. So we're going to do /bin password because that's where it's located. So we're going to escape out of here. You see here, it's a syntax error.
Uh-huh.
So that's how you know, like if it's messed up, it tells you what options you want. Do you want to edit it? You go back to E for edit. So you see how I have it spelled wrong with an S?
It should have been a D.
Yep. So now I'm putting the password command because I want to be able to use that. Actually, I forgot to do one thing. Okay, it's clear. You see, it's good. Now I'm going to switch to Manny. Now let's run the sudo password command. You see how it works now?
Nice. Okay.
Okay. So like now I gave him specific access to run the sudo command. Okay. So now if I exit, let's delete it. Actually, let's go back
I
here.
have a quick question. I went into the vi sudo just being nosy.
Yeah,
How
no
do I
problem.
get out of it?
You use the vi. Okay. So type escape
Okay.
or press the escape button once. And once you do that, let me know.
Okay.
Now press shift and the colon. You see mine on the bottom left, the two little like dots.
Yeah.
Press shift and colon.
Mm-hmm.
And since you're not changing anything, you can press quit, exclamation mark, enter.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem. So now that we're in here, we're going to comment this out. And how do you guys comment stuff out? You can use the hashtag. So I comment this out. I'm going to right quit. Now let me switch to Manny. Right. Now I'm going to try to change the password again. Password for Tom. As you can see now, my access has been revoked. So I cannot run that command anymore. So going over these commands again, like I said, over here, as we can see, Manny, that was over here. Let me just highlight this. As we can see, Manny, that was over here. He had access. He basically could run the command without a password. And then he can run the /bin. You saw like over here how it says /bin password. So this command, the password command was able to be ran on here. And then on the bottom, on the top here, where was it? Hold on, let me open this up again. So if we go up here, you can use command aliases like storage, delegations, processes, and drivers. So you can make this yourself. So if I delete this, it'll give me, so if I delete this comment and you type in command alias drivers with capital letters, whatever you want to do, you can give a list of commands that you want to allow. So I could do this too. So I can just go delete. Actually, you know what? Let me make another one. I'm going to do command alias. I can do admin equals /bin/password, right? I can also add another command. I can do /bin/user add, right? So I can add these. So command alias admin. Now let me just delete this, make it capital because you want to make sure that you're following the standard. And then once we go here, we'll go to Manny. And there's a command that we want him to run would be admin. These are the commands that we want him to run. So if we go back, we switch to Manny. So let's try to do password. All right, let me just get 1 second. Let me just double check this configuration. But the whole point of those aliases is so you can group all these files together. I mean, not files, but the commands together, so they can just run one command instead of multiple commands. So a lot of these is just a lot of just playing around and trying to configure this really quick. Let me make sure it's spelled correctly. Oh, okay. Let me just add them to the group area. Make sure this is correct.
And also just to clarify, the commands that this affect is only the ones that require sudo access, correct?
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep. Just double checking this, you guys, making sure this is correct. I think I spelled this wrong. The A should be A. Yep, that's why it didn't work. So that it didn't spell check me for that, but it did spell check me for other stuff. So as we can see here now, we have Manny with no password, and then we want to use admin. So let's try that again. A lot of this stuff is just like, you know, how can I explain it? No one's perfect. So pretty much like it's normal to go through this is a troubleshooting process. So it's a normal thing to kind of go back and forth on stuff because things don't always work correct the first time. So we're gonna do password see, it doesn't work still. So let me just go back and double check it. But that alias that we used should be here. But I think you guys understand the gist of it. This will just be pretty much just troubleshooting, looking at it, but it says these are all the commands that you can run. So all will be no password. So same thing without a password. So all no password, all. Let's see. I do have a Manny group. Where the heck is it? There it is. So slash bin slash user add command alias admin. That's correct. Go down here. I think I'm gonna try a different syntax version. So let's try a different syntax.
Or could it be the space that you have in between the two commands on the top? Because it seems from the format, from what I could see,
Yeah,
you
I
have
could
an
try
extra
that.
space. You have an extra space in between.
Yeah, I can try that. Let me try this actually. I'll just try a regular instead of doing instead of using the group, I'll try to use just the username. So Manny, all passwords, but the only one that doesn't need a password would be admin. We'll see if that one works. You can try that. Let's see if I can do it this way. So let's change to Manny and CD, and I'll do password. Oh, Tom, my bad. Hold on. Yeah, I'll try the space one also. I'm gonna try the group version of it, and the reason why is because they changed the format of it recently. Before you didn't have to put the percentage sign, but now you do. So I'm gonna try it this way and see if I can get this to work. And then there's the last part of the whole thing, anyways. Before I go over the homework and the labs that I'm gonna give you guys and IPs and stuff, to practice the SSH stuff. You can also do Sudo stuff, like whatever you guys want to do, if you want. So let's try this. That's interesting. I'm gonna have to look at why it doesn't work because this is the correct syntax. This is the correct way to do it, in general. But there's probably one more syntax or other way I can spell it out. There's a couple of ways you can reference it. So let's try that. So let's do vi sudo etc sudoers file. Try that again. So be all equals all, and no password. I guess my command alias isn't working. Okay, all the command alias is just a pointer. It just points to the alias on the top. That's all it does. That's the only thing it does. But I mean, I did spell it admin though. And all the other ones like the same. So let's spell this incorrect. CMND alias capital letters equal, and then the commands that I want to reference. Oh, it's because I probably have this comma. This comma is probably in the middle. So we can try that. Let's try this one more time. And if it doesn't work, then I'll look into it. But I think it's probably the comma. So let's try that one more time. wrong one. All right, there's something wrong with the alias. I'm gonna look into it. Not sure why it's not working. I don't want to take too much of the class time, but I'll put it back to normal to show you how it works. But for some reason, I guess the alias isn't working. I'll have to look up why not. It looks like the syntax is correct, so I'll have to see why it doesn't work. Password. Oh, I feel like an idiot. Okay, so the reason why it's not working, you guys, because I'm not using the sudo command when doing the password tom. Let's go back again. My apologies. So sometimes the simplest thing can sometimes you forget. So maybe that's why it wasn't working. It's just a theory because I was just running the command normally. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I was using sudo each time, or if I wasn't. That's why it wasn't working, you guys. Because I kept using the command, but forgot to add sudo in front of it. So that's why I kept going back and forth. Those like 5-10 minutes could have been saved if I noticed I wasn't using sudo. You know, like sometimes when you're like in the zone, you're very focused. Sometimes you can forget very simple details. That as you saw there, I was going back and forth the whole time. Like, why isn't it working? Like, that's why it wasn't working. As we can see here, we can see Manny equals all, and then it references the admin aliases and the admin. You know, we just made it up just now. Command alias admin, and these are the commands that I give it permission to. So the whole time it was not working because I forgot to add sudo, because the whole point of the sudo command is that it looks in the sudoers files to see what you're allowed to run. That's pretty much it. So if let's go back here, we could do that again. So let me look at his history so I can just laugh and see. If you can see here, look at the history. Password Tom, password Tom, password Tom. You see? And the last one, sudo. Password Tom, password Tom, password Tom, password Tom, password Tom. So each time I was running it without sudo. That's why it wasn't working. And I was just going crazy. I'm like, why isn't this not working? Because I forgot sudo. And just for God's sake, we can do password Tom one more time. As you can see, only root can specify username. But, you know, the sudo, there it is.
It's fine. We missed it.
Yeah, and the other thing I was gonna say is that the last one I was gonna go over, you see, it didn't ask me for a password. When I ran this, it's supposed to ask you for a password. When you run the sudo tom like the command sudo password tom, it's supposed to ask for your password, but it doesn't, because in the vi sudo command, I'm saying, hey, you don't need a password to run it. But let's say you need a password to run it, and if I go back to su many, right? I do the same command again, like sudo password, password Tom, it will ask me for my password. You see? And then it runs the command. So that's the difference between no password and password. No password allows you to run a command without your own password. Password allows you to run a command with your password. The reason why you do that is because someone got into your server, right? Let's say someone got your SSH key, right? If someone got your SSH key and was somehow able to get into that server, where you're allowed to run commands, by you asking for the password of that user allows it to be a little bit more secured. It's like an extra layer of security. But if they have the password to your account, it doesn't make a difference because they can just use the same password. But that's the difference. One, you can use a password to run the command, and one, you don't have to. Same thing with SSH. Remember when you make your key, SSH keygen, one, you have to add a password, and one, you don't. That's the only difference. But I'll go over today's homework and answer any questions. I know, and you can look over this video once this service I have up, or the new OneDrive business is up and working. But I will show you guys what the homework is pretty much going to be. So
sure. Before you do, can you quickly open the vi sudoers file again real quick? I just want to see or ask a question.
Okay. Okay.
The VI is sudo. Yeah. All right. So I see right next to the all, the first all equals all, right? What does that signify?
So the first all equals all, it means that you can pretty much, I think it's run commands. Let me double check the command aliases. Give me 1 second.
Sure.
I remember this, but it's been such a minute. So I know you have the command alias. Okay, here it is. Okay, I see it. So command alias. I think if I remember correctly, so pretty much the first all means, so basically it's the rule that applies to pretty much, I think was it the host? I know the second one means that the host, or I mean, the second one means that the user can run commands as any user. I think that's what the second all means. And then the third all, because I know there's a couple of them. Give me 1 second. Because these are the commands that you can run. So all means that the user has complete root level access and can run any command as any user on the host. But there's probably redundancy on that one because, give me 1 second. Just got a message. Oh, just give me 1 second. We'll double check in the manual because I remember this. It's been a while since I had a look at that, but I know that all those all means that you're basically running all commands. I know that we already know that. That's like the second part of it. I think it's kind of like sometimes there's like redundancy in it, but let's do the etc sudoers files. And we'll talk about the all. Should tell you here. So this is like the manual page. This actually gives you more information about it, of how to use the command. So let's see the all. Here it is. So no, I don't want this one. I want the actual sudoers. There it is. Much better. So let's look for the /all. That's the logging. Okay, I think I remember. I think the first all is for what users are allowed to it. I know it's kind of redundant because you're actually specifying the user, but I do remember the first command has to do something with the users that are allowed. And the second one, here it is. Match all users name. Nope, that's not it. I remember it was one of these, a host list. There's a pretty long page. It's like a lot of info on the sudoers file, but I remember it's somewhere in here that explains the first all. Okay, maybe it's here. The explanation, nope, obviously that's talking about something else. But just to look back at the actual file itself, I remember, I think this had to do with like what users are allowed to run it. I know that it says wheel here and it's kind of like redundant because like if you're part of the wheel group, what does that mean? But I think this had to do with users. So like, let's say if like you had a wheel group and there's some people you don't want to access to. So let's say if you want like, you know, everybody in the wheel group to run it except, you know, Manny per se, right? That means that everyone in this group except Matt or anybody in this group that's basically anyone who's omitted from here is not allowed to run it. So like if you put Manny in here and like 3-4 other users, only they can run it. That's part of the wheel group. Because I think the first part is a user, but I'll get back to you. And the second part is for the command. So I know that it's to specify the scope. So I can't give you exactly sure, but I think the first one's users. From what I remember, there's not really clear documentation that I can find right now. But I know that the second one we know is the actual commands. But it is a little bit redundant that it has the name here. But I think this specifies like the actual users or allows all people in the group wheel to run all commands. Yes, we know that. But I think it specifies the user that can run the command, but I have to look into it to give you information on it. But I know it was something weird like that. It was something weird like that where it says where the users can run it. So like if we go up here, one last one before we go over the homework. Just want to give you another example just to make sure that I have it correct. Because it doesn't explain that like directly in the file. Let's see. Allows member of the user groups to mount and unmount. Okay, we know that. Allows member of the group users. Okay. Sure things without a password. All people in the group wheel to run all commands. So look at the second all. That's what I'll look at right now. These are the commands. On the left side, I think is the users. So let's try that out. Let's see. So right now, how we can test this out, I think this is for users. So let's quit and let's see how that works. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna check what group is Tom in. We can see Tom is part of the wheel group. So we're gonna switch into Tom. And then I'm gonna see if Tom can change Manny's password. Actually, I forgot to put Sudo in front of it. So we'll put Sudo. As you can see, Tom is allowed to change Manny's password. Actually, is he? I forgot the password for this one. Let me change it real quick. We're doing this so we can test what the first variable is talking about in there. So let me exit and let me change Tom's password too, because I definitely forgot it. Tom, so okay. So right now, the reason why we're switching to Tom is because we want to make sure that Tom actually has that privilege. That way, we don't have any false positives or anything. So we're going to do sudo password. And then we're going to switch Manny's password because I have the privilege. As you can see, we can switch Manny's password. So now I'm going to exit and I'm going to go to the VI suitors. And as you can see, anybody in the wheel group can run it. But now I'm going to take that away. I'm going to say only Manny is allowed to run that. So escape. Let's go back to Tom. As we can see, Tom is part of the wheel group, so he should be able to run the password command. We're going to use the sudo command to make sure that it's nothing wrong. Sudo password, and we do Manny. As you see, it doesn't work. Sorry, user Tom is not allowed to execute the password. Manny as root. So the first one is the users that are allowed to execute that command.
Okay.
Yeah, because I know it's a little bit redundant. I know it was a weird, like, I forgot like what it was, but I remember how to do something with users, and I know it was weird because, how can I explain it? It's weird to explain it because, like, example here, right? You have the wheel group, so why would you have to specify the people who can use it? You know what I mean? So all this means, the first one, since we verified it, all it just means the users are allowed to run this command. So example, you see Manny, only Manny's going to be part of the Manny group, right? So why do you have to put all? Right. So this is how the file is made. This is like the logic of it. Like, I don't know what further purposes there is. I can understand for the wheel group, and other things like this. So the first one just tells you what users are on the host is allowed to run these commands. That's it. The second one is the wheel. So by default, it's always all. And the second part is the important part. That's where you add the no password, or you add the command aliases, or you add the specific commands you want to run. Right. Does that make more sense now, you guys?
Yes, it do for me, at least.
Yeah. I apologize. I mean, like I said, it's a lot of these things are a little weird. So you really have to look deep into this stuff just to find out some stuff. All right. So now, yeah, no problem. So the next thing, I'm just gonna open up my browser for the homework, so we can just wrap it up for the day. All right, as we can see here, you're not going to be doing this. I'm just showing you guys. I have these servers set up. I'm going to set them up now for you guys. I'll set them. I'm not sure how much it costs. I have to check how much it is, but I'll try to just when you guys are ready. If you guys want a certain time or you guys want to ping me individually, I can set these servers up for you and I'll write down the IPs. And then once you're done, let me know with the labs or whatever. But I can set up these labs. And the reason why I want to set these labs up, unless you want to do it yourself, I just want to give you the option. So the point of the servers is because on the homework, you're going to have to either you can do it with your VMs or you can do it this way. So it's up to you. But I want to have this option open for you guys. So pretty much what's going to be the homework is going to be about having two VMs or two servers or whatever, and you're going to practice like logging into each other. So the two important files that we went over to is the sudoers file, right? So for privileges, and then we went over the SSH command. So why that's important is that with the SSH, not the SSH command, but the SSH protocol, you're going to be practicing making your keys, and also practicing sending your key over with the SSH copy ID. I'll have the instructions in the homework, but that's all you're going to be doing. Your homework is going to be logging from one server to the next server, and then copying the key from one server to the other server, and then also connecting with it. So you can try to do one with a password to like connect, and then you have to put your password SSH key, and then you can try one without the password. And the reason why the SSH config file is important is because if server A, you want to log into server A, make sure on server A, you go to the SSHD configuration and you allow password authentication. Because if you don't allow it, and let's say you're trying to log in as Tom and Tom's password is root, if you log into that computer, it won't work. So if you do SSH Tom at that IP address, it doesn't work. So make sure that Tom's computer that you're trying to log into and the SSHD, which is the SSHD server, and that's responsible for all incoming connection. That file, make sure you edit it and make sure the password authentication is allowed. If it's allowed, then what you're able to do is make the key here and use SSH copy ID, because SSH copy ID allows you to send the actual public key to send it to the server. But before you send it, you need the password of the server to send it there. So that's why it's important. That's why I had to go over both of the things, the sudoers file and the SSH and how it works and stuff like that. Obviously, there's a lot more things around the topic and you get a lot more complicated, but I think this is the what you're going to need most of the time. So like this is like the basic stuff that you need. Which is going to be like something that's going to be commonly used, especially you're doing system admin work. Sudoers file and SSH stuff is important. And the reason why I explain SSH server and SSH client files to you is because most people don't think of that. When you think of SSH, you think of one program, right? But in reality, it's two programs. You have one, this is called SSH server, that listens to all the incoming connections, that allows someone to connect as a root, or it uses their password authentication, or use X11, which is like for graphical stuff, like, to get like a graphical, output or whatever. And then you have the SSH client. The SSH client is important because when you connect to the server, it tells the other server where your key is at, where the key is at. So that's why it's important, because when you're connecting, you're going to use your public key to connect. And then the -I for the SSH-I, it specify where the key is at. So the SSH client tells it where it's at, but you don't have to do it by default. By default, you don't do it, but you can if you want to be specific about it, but you're really not going to use it if you don't have to. But that's why I explained those two files for you. And then same thing with the sudoers file. That's all for like privilege escalation, giving it to special users and things like that, pretty much. So if anybody needs any of these servers to be activated, I can do that for you. If you want to set up two VMs, all you have to do is if I were you, what I'll do to make it easier, if somebody in the group wants to help or I can help out, it's pretty much just copy your VM. Just copy the VM file if you can. If you know how to do it, you can just clone it, and then you can open up a second one and change the path, make a new user on there, and then try to connect with each other. Obviously, you're going to use the IP command to try to get the IPs for both of them to be able to connect with each other. But or you can have me set it up for you, and all you have to do is log in with the users that I give you. Because one computer will have 2 users, the other computer will have 2 users. You will have the password, and all you have to do is just set up the SSH stuff and play around with the sudoers and stuff if you want. And if you mess it up, it's okay because you can just delete it and make a new one. But the reason why I recommend you guys make a VM image, make the user, make the password, make everything, and clone it. And because if you mess up, you don't want to start all over installing it, and it's too much work. Just clone your VM. That way, anytime you mess up, you have a fresh image of it to install.
And also about the SSH keys, in order for you to copy and send it to the second VM, right?
Yeah.
The usernames you have to have a login for that second VM, right?
Yes, you're gonna have to have a login, number one, and then number two, you got to make sure that the SSH server or that configuration file is allowing you to use the password to log in. Because if it's by default no, that means you won't be able to log into that server.
Can we take a look at that file real quick?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm not going to save anything, so it doesn't matter. Okay, cool. All right, so we're going to do VI etc SH, and then you see how you see this one. So this one is for the server. So it always is complicated because you have to explain it in a different way in terms of like where you're at. So this only matters where you're at, right? So this file, this is the file that you want to configure on the remote server. Okay. So this file for me, for this server that I'm on, has to do with anyone that wants to connect to my server. So this file, you're gonna have to look at on the on the server that you want to connect to. So this is the file, and this file is for me. Like this is the settings that I'm using when I'm connecting to another server, and this is the file that it's being used when people are connecting to you. So this is the file we're going to use. And remember, .d stands for directory. So, but we're going to use, actually not the directory one, but we're going to use the regular config. The directory is if you have other settings that you want to use, but these are the default files. This is if you want to add other configurations, but we don't. So you want to just use this one, the SHD config. But remember, this config file applies to the server that you're connecting to. So, right. So exporting is allowed. Yes, this is allowed. So if we go down here, there's one for root too. I don't know where it is at, but whatever. You can also copy and paste it. Sometimes they don't have these by default, but let's check. I don't see password authentication. There's Kerberos, that's something else. We don't have to look over that. Authorized keys, file, SSH authorized key. So you see here how the actual like server looks at the authorized keys. That means that anyone that's connecting to this server, their key should be saved here. That's all that means. So here it is, public key authentication. You see here, you have to comment this line out. So this is the key. This is what you want to you want to comment out. And you see the max authorization try. So if someone's trying to use the password, they can try 6 times, or one time, or 2 times before it kicks them out the session, and they have to retry again. So as you see here, this is where you want to go on the SSD file, or SSHD, which stands for daemon. This is the file that you want to look at. It's called the pub key authentication. You can use yes. So there's a public key. My bad. This is not the password. This is the public key authentication. I'm gonna put yes on here. But you need a password one. My bad. Let me look at the password one. Let me try to find this with slash. Pass. There it is. // type in pass, type in enter, press N, I, and then here you see you can comment this line out. Password authentication, yes. There's what you want to use. So this line, password authentication, and then the public key one, you want to uncomment these. Public key authentication, yes. And password authentication, yes. So if you look in the file, they should be there.
Okay. And those should be enabled basically.
They should be enabled on the remote server that you want to log into. If you want to, if you're on that server, you want to log into the other server, then you got to make sure that the other server also has this. So when you're doing this, this is basically for that server you're connecting to. So yeah, so like that server needs to have these. Just think about it as like a gatekeeper, right? Like this is like security. So like when you're logging into that server, there's a security control center. It's like, hey, other servers can connect to me using a password. Yes. Other servers can connect to me using a public key. You know, there's some servers that don't have any authentication at all because you need to remotely be there. Like you remotely have to be on the server. There's no public key and there's no password authentication. That means no one can access it. So those are like for like really like secure systems, right? But like in instance, all you have to do on that server, make sure you authenticate, have the password authentication, yes, and the public key authentication, yes, or else it won't work.
Okay. And also, I noticed some OS when you install it, SSH is not automatically installed on the OS.
So if it's not, you can just do this. You can, I'm not sure what OS you're using. You can use apt-get install, or you can use yum or DNF. DNF is like a newer version of yum. The DNF versus yum. DNF actually fixed some issues that were with yum, and it actually has a lot more like benefits, I think, but it's very similar. So you can use yum and then install open SSH-Y, which will do it by default. So you can install it this way. Nothing to do. I already have it installed. And if you need help finding it, you can use the search command for SSH. I spelled it wrong. SSH. So we do this, yum search SSH. Go look for all the packages named SSH. And you look here, you're going to look for open SSH. All these don't count. Don't look at these, there's some other stuff. So you see you're looking for open SSH. See right here? This is the one that you want to install. And you see it's version 2. That's what we talked about. So open SSH version 2, this is the one that you want to use to install. Right here, open SSH. But obviously, you're not going to type in the dot. You're going to type in the name. And then if you're using apt-get, you use I think app search. I think it's app search or apt-get search, something like that. You can actually, if you look it up, you can actually Google like app search. It's one of these, but the same thing. You type in SSH and you look for the package. But the package that we want to look for, you guys, is called open SSH by default. If the if this command doesn't work, like if I'm running this command, like SSH Lucy, whatever the IP address that I had was. Mm-hmm. So let's try that. So if I you see I logged into Lucy now, but if I can't SSH into the machine, then you will know. So
and I think guys, the ones that are on the VMware servers, most likely you guys will probably have to install this, which is why I brought it up. So make sure you use the yum install open SSH, like the one he just showed us. So make sure you guys have it down somewhere.
You can also type in SSH and press enter. Also, if you want to, like, there's other ways to see if you have package installed, but type in SSH enter. If you get like a usage and you get this information, that means like then it exists. You can also type in which SSH will give you the location of where, sorry, SSH, you can do that. If you see which SSH, it can tell you where it's located. So if you get any output, that means SSH is already installed in your system. So if you want to do that, also you can. Use the use the SSH and you can just check if it's on there. You can use which SSH, doesn't matter. The easiest one is just type in SSH, press enter, and if you see something, you see like usage, then it works. If not, like he was saying, like Nana was saying, you can install it.
Okay.
All right. Any questions so far during the class? My apologies if there was a lot of information, but we just needed to get through a lot today. But the good thing is that if you want the PowerPoints, I can also have the PowerPoints for you guys, so you guys can just read through it and keep it for yourselves. I can add that in a OneDrive too, if that's something you guys are interested in.
Yeah, definitely the PowerPoint.
Okay, I'll do that. But yeah, it is a lot of information. But one thing I can just tell you guys, if you guys take your time and actually practice and read over the stuff and just like read over it a couple of times, it'll eventually get it. When I first started learning Linux, some of the stuff was very confusing for me, but it's a normal thing for it to be confused because it's something new. It's a different way of thinking of things, you know. So it's totally normal. The only thing you can do is just pretty much just study or learn more about it and how. Don't get too deep on it, but kind of try to learn like the gist of it, and then practice it, and then kind of reinforce your learning by asking other questions that clarify your questions. There was some clarifying questions about asking about you know, how did the all command work or the alias kind of stuff. Like when you ask these kind of questions, like you have an idea, and then you ask a question to clarify your knowledge. So you know, that's the best thing to do is just ask clarifying questions to clarify what you already what you already know. Like you search that, and if it validates it, now you can feel comfortable and moving on to the next question related to what you're going to ask. But I'll put that in the OneDrive. Like I said, I'm getting a business OneDrive. I'll add that info so you guys can look at the PowerPoint and look over this video again. Yep, and that's it. I don't have anything else to say, but I will put the homework up, which will be 2 VMs. I'll put all the instructions and I'll look over it a couple of times, make sure the instructions are more clear for you guys. And if there's any like issues with the labs or any issues with anything going on with your 2 VMs, just message me or put in the group and I'll try to help you as much as I can.
Great.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, just a reminder for the other video. I know you're gonna work on this one, but just know that we're pending. The videos really do help me a lot. So if we could get those up, that would be great.
Okay. Yep. It'll be up as soon as I can get it done. So I'll message you guys when they're up too.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
well, yep, it'll be this one too. So it'll be 4 and this one will be 5.
Yep. Yep.
All right. Well, if there's no other questions, then we can just conclude the meeting. If there isn't, then any other questions?
Yeah, I think today's
No.
class for me was very informative. I shared some of the questions or some of the new stuff I wasn't sure about the Sudo file, which was good. But I think for the rest of the team that are not really familiar with it, it might have been a lot of information.
Yes.
So I think maybe going forward, we will probably have to go back to the way we ask or like do practice cases in class, so that we can pick someone for them to actually
we'll do that.
That we just went over.
Okay.
So I think that might help, at least just for people to get hands-on and kind of take a break and kind of practice what we just learned, basically.
Got it. Yeah, we'll do that. I think we'll do that in the next class. I'll try to set it up that way. All the feedback helps. I'm just trying to make it more engaging for you guys. I know the PowerPoint. Right. Trust me, PowerPoints are boring. I don't like PowerPoints, especially when it's something new to learn. It's like, yo, what's going on? But yeah, we'll incorporate that in the next class. I just want to get a good amount of information out.
Yeah.
But I think it was
don't get rid of the PowerPoints because
definitely
I think throwing out a lot of the commands, I mean, we could memorize the commands, but just understanding the background behind like what these things mean, what it's for, and how it looks visually. I think the PowerPoint really helps put everything together for us.
And I think it would be great even if you can maybe send us those PowerPoints ahead of prior to class starting.
Okay.
Maybe a day or two. This way we can actually review it. And then when we come in class, we can ask questions about it. Perfect. So that you don't have to waste time going over it.
Okay, we'll do that. Good. That's just a really good call. Yeah, I'll do that. All right. All right. Well, I'll note that down, and let me note that down real quick.
Yeah, because today's class, to me, personally, I think it was very informative. I know I've watched some YouTube videos on Sudo file, and the way you described it today kind of made complete, like, total sense to me.
Okay, I appreciate it. I'm trying to make things a lot more simple for you guys. I mean, I'm trying. I mean, it's because the thing is, it's hard with a lot of like the classes is because everyone's at different like levels. So it's like trying to find that beautiful balance between like like you have to find that level, you know, like depending on where everyone's at. So if everyone's here, then it's easier to explain things down here. But if, you know, some people are here, some people are here, so it's kind of hard to, so I'm trying to, all the feedback helps me try to kind of calibrate my information to you guys. So I try to do it like in a way where like I pretend like no one knows anything. And even if you do, that way it's easier for everyone else to catch along with it.
Yeah, and I think we should stick with that, because let's just keep it that way, because I would say 90 or 99% of everybody in here barely knows anything.
Okay.
So we
okay.
are all learning from the start. Yeah.
I feel like you're, yep.
And like you know, like the last 2 classes when there was more, you know,
Yes.
hands on, where we, you know, we were following what you were doing.
Yes.
I learned better that way.
We'll do it that way for the one. Yes.
And also please do call on us in the midst of class. You know, that also wakes us up and, you know, have us participating and all that good stuff. I think that will also see how far we get in the message across, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
I'll just have to try to curate it to make it balanced, because I know I had so much information. I didn't want to get too complicated. So I have to figure out, I think it's just the creative part of trying to create this and trying to make it. The other ones were not too bad because the subjects were a lot easier, but like this, I saw that there was a couple things related. I'm like, man, I have a lot of information, but I think I could have the class probably would have been longer, but maybe it would have been a lot more fruitful. Maybe I could have shortened the PowerPoint, but with the main points in there, I could have done that also. I'm going to take that in consideration, and I appreciate that. I'm going to do that for the next class for you guys.
And the drawings help as well.
Yes, very
It
much.
shows-
Yeah.
Yeah, at least it shows like why we're doing these things. We're not just like inputting commands. I mean,
Yeah.
the definitions help, of course, but your drawings, I'm a visual learner, they're very beneficial.
Today's class, I liked it. I liked it a lot. Me personally, I liked it.
Yeah. Well, I guess Nana is the more technical one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's why you
I'm
liked
out of here.
it.
Yeah, that's him.
Okay.
Yeah, so please don't let
Yes.
his questions drive the class, because it will drive us off a cliff.
Okay. I'll make sure. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set up all this stuff for you guys. I think I'm gonna get like a drawing pad too, because I can draw better like with my hand than with using a mouse and some random like sketch website. So I'll try to do that too, because I'm a visual learner too. I'm actually I'm a visual learner. I'm like a action, like a doer. Like I learn multiple ways. I have to have multiple like ways I can learn. So, but I'll do that for you guys. I'm gonna invest some money and get that get the drawing board and stuff, and or something where I can explain it for you guys easier.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, you guys have a great day, great evening, and thank you guys for watching. I'll get this. I'll let this video process and look into the OneDrive business and see if I can move everything over there and have everything in one place for you guys.
All right,
Perfect.
thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you guys very much. Have a great day.
Good night.
Good night. Bye.
Thank you.
No problem.